And it is really, when it does the backs out and then starts going forward, it really hesitates. We're this way. Like I had to intervene there and hit the accelerator to get it to actually move forward.
New York City is the most unaffordable city in America.
Tell me about it.
Right? You have studio apartments going for $5,000. You've got the medium home price going for $250,000. That is unaffordable, and I think in some way that speaks to the support that Donald Trump got in the city, and I think that as we look at the election 4 months from now, will be a deciding factor. Who's going to speak to the issues that working class New Yorkers deal with?
It's interesting that you say that, because one of the big issues that helped Mayor Adams get elected was getting tough on crime, which reflected one of Donald Trump's biggest times.
And sure, that's the other thing. We all take the subway in the city, and I think that, subway crime is something people can immediately see and something they immediately ignore. And so that is also important. I'd say to you, there was a recent poll that came out that said, even though we have this wide field, you essentially have two people. You've got Cuomo and you've got the mayor. And
you think that's what it's going to come down to?
I do. I think name recognition matters. There are many other talented people in that group, but name recognition matters. And the real question again is, who can deal with the affordable housing crisis in New York City? I think that is a deciding factor.
So there's another wild card that some people are talking about. For all the slashing and burning, as I said, if you look at the polls, CBS News, YouGov polls never saw Trump break 50% his entire first term. He's at 53%. When you look at the mayor's race, does he get points for saying, you know what, I have a relationship with Donald Trump. We need to learn to work with Donald Trump.
I think the latter is true. I think people want their politician to work with Donald Trump if it improves their lives. I think that is the case in New York, San Francisco, Miami, wherever. I think outside of that, people in democratic cities want their electeds to fight Donald Trump as much as they can.
You worked in that world. Discontent among congressional Democrats is not exactly breaking news, but arguably they've never needed to be more united than they do now, right? Democratic governors on the final Chuck Schumer is reported pushing to be tougher on Trump. Let's speak to a little of those frustrations with Schumer and your own husband, Jeffries. Do they need to step down? What are you hearing from Democrats?
Democrats have to go. This nonsense, it does not work against a guy that is there to win in his own way. Writing letters and having all these press conferences is sweet. It's very nice. It does nothing against a guy like Donald Trump. They have to go nuclear if they're going to really reel him back in. And his will in the Constitution, that is the only word.
Is it one voter at a time, too? Do they need to go into their districts, particularly members of Congress, go back to their states, members of the Senate? Do they need to be more visible than maybe they are now?
Absolutely. You don't need to be a DC, honestly, at this point. I would have shown videos.
beyond a reasonable doubt. This was her exact quote. Insufficient evidence to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. Stop there. When prosecutors utilize that phrase, understand that is coded language to let you know the fix is in. Why? Any first-year law student will tell you a prosecutor's job is not to charge a case based on the expectation of a reasonable doubt that a jury may or may not consider. You see, that's getting ahead of their own bias. Their bias is prosecutorial. Their job or their oath is to uphold what? Justice. So perhaps if somebody commits murder, but you know they're so popular with the community, they would never be convicted, a prosecutor can just say, well, I don't believe that the evidence will support a conclusion based on the reasonable doubt standard in criminal court. That would be insane, would it not? Put a picture back up. So when you hear that term, when you hear that quote, insufficient evidence to prove beyond a reasonable doubt, they didn't say they don't believe the cops did it. They're not saying they don't believe these cops are guilty of anything. How many press conferences have been held where the prosecutor and the police chief, they clearly say who they believe is guilty, and they say nothing about a potential jury. So that quote was proof of what was happening. So she says insufficient evidence to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that they did not act in self-defense. In the statement, Joyce explained that there was, quote, no independent, credible witness that could be put in front of a grand jury or a regular jury who contradicts police statements. She said in 2016, added, quote, none of the other witnesses had a clear view at the moment when Mansour was shot. Man, you sound like a damn defense attorney, talking about the credibility of one human being as opposed to the other. You really believe that cops have that much strength in their testimony in front of a jury today? Their testimony is so, let's just say, fluid at best, up and down, that a police report is not allowed to be entered as evidence in a criminal trial. Now, in 2020, it's called hearsay. The cop has to testify to it themselves. In 2020, the victim's father, Dennis Belbay, filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the officers. Once again, extrajudicial remedy by the family. Also, it was filed against the police chief and the city. On Friday, a jury awarded Mansour Belbay's family $6.25 million in their wrongful death suit, plus $12.5 million in punitive damages suit, totaling $18.7 million, according to the attorney, Javad Ghazili. Now, Ghazili said the family was actually pleased with the verdict, noting that the jury reached its decision in just 90 minutes. That's it, 90 minutes. He added that the $18.75 million award was far greater than the city's initial $450,000 settlement offer. So what do you have? Do you really think a civil jury is somehow holistically different than a criminal jury? No. Same people. They get them from the same voter files, voter registry.
Guest in particular, who we have to talk about right now. Donald Trump is being criticized today for tax money spent on his Super Bowl appearance. It's not like he just, gets in an Uber and goes there. A lot goes into it, a lot of money spent. So let's run it down for you. There's a reason why no other sitting president before Donald Trump ever attended a Super Bowl. They're football fans too, But the reason they didn't is because it's so expensive, not to mention a security nightmare. And in this day where every penny counts, that's what he is telling us, and so is his friend Elon Musk, literally every penny counts. Even though he wants to do away with the penny, but never mind that. Americans are wondering why their president isn't setting a better example. What's good for him is good for him, and there's another set of rules for you, okay? You can't go. You're fiscally irresponsible. Though the final numbers aren't in, estimates of Trump's appearance at the dud of a Super Bowl. The game wasn't good, but my Eagles. Okay, so I maybe disagree with the word dud, but I get it. Blowout. It reveals, though, president's visit to the Super Bowl cost an additional $15 million in flight and security costs to get president, his daughter Ivanka, who's back in again, huh? Son Eric, grandson Theodore to the game and keep them safe while in New Orleans. And Black Star filling in the details, giving us the tally, if you will. Generally costs about $3 million to $4 million for an American president to take a short trip anywhere. It had already been increased in New Orleans due to the horrific truck attack on January 1st, killed 15 people. Armed guards around every corner, snipers stationed on rooftops, police dogs on patrol. Pretty much every available form of security was deployed in the Big Easy. So let's run the tab down for you, the estimate anyway. It's pretty incredible. Secret Service, $7 million to $10 million. Air travel, motorcade, $4 to $5 million. Stadium security upgrades, additional metal detectors, bomb sweeps, security checkpoints. Oh, throw in another $2 million. Local law enforcement, overtime personnel, another $1 million. So there you see the tally, $15 to $20 million for one guy with a bad spray tan to show up in New Orleans and boo. I know he was leading the boos against Taylor Swift. Was it worth it? Was it worth it? Not to mention probably the lamb chops that they dined on in the suite. You know, they had the good stuff. President didn't even stay for the entire game. That's insulting right there. I'm only going to stay for a little bit. He left an hour before its conclusion. Depending on which video you trust, Trump was either wildly cheered or roundly booed by fans at the Superdome. Probably both. I mean, I saw videos where people were calling him a traitor and an insurrectionist and some other foul language. And he just turned and waved as if they were saying, "We love you, Mr. President." That's not what I heard, but who knows, okay? Probably both, as we said. Had fans known how much of their money was spent getting him and his family there, boos might have won in a landslide. It is your money, folks. This is not, I mean, he's so rich. I'm so rich. You paid for this, whether you voted for him or not, whether you like him or not. You paid every dime. I mean, I would think he would say, you know what? I'll pay my own way. I've got a ton of money. Plus, I'm doing Bitcoin and forcing that down some people's throats. So I can handle this. That's not what he did. At least the estimates are in anyway. It's a price tag that does not sit well with the American people, already facing the high cost of eggs, other goods, products. Trump's tariffs threaten to raise prices even more. The man in charge of the Department of Government Efficiency warned his cuts would lead to temporary hardship. Again, hardship for you, not Trump, not Ivanka or Jared, as they help the now president once again take over Gaza, and it's going to be fabulous. There'll be buildings and a development. They're not paying you off. As one commenter on the must-own social media platform X stated, the man with more money than anyone else on earth says everyone's temporary hardship will be worth it. How much hardship will he endure during all of this? Where's Doge? Asked another after checking the receipts of Trump's weekend getaway. And so, do you see what I mean here? Okay, there's one set of rules for you, me, all of us, and then there's another set of rules for Trump and his billionaire cronies. This Mark Zuckerberg counted Bezos, they're still trying to work their way back in with Trump. But it's just sick. He didn't have to go. We already, if you were watching a certain network, had to listen to his blowhard, filibustering non-interview with Brett Baer, you know, that little halftime thing that he does. We already had to listen to that. Why did he have to be there? And Ivanka, I thought she was keeping her distance because her socialite friends in New York no longer want to be friends with her. I guess now that he's back in, she's back in. I mean, it's just the height of fiscal irresponsibility, gluttonous behavior he's doing to us. But what he's really doing is saying, I don't care about you. It's like the jacket Melania wore. I don't really care, do you? It should be branded on every Trump property. Although, does he even own the properties, or these are licensing deals? It's sick. And so is that price tag. You decide. 15 to 20 million, he's looking out for the little guy. He's trampling all over the little guy. Wow. Let's go to our friend. Do I consider Stephen A. a friend? I mean, I know him a tiny bit. But hey, he's got a megaphone and he's not afraid to use it. And now Stephen A. Smith is using that megaphone to, why are you doing this? I like the crip walk. He's ripping into Serena Williams over the halftime show cameo. What's not to love? What's not to love? Yesterday's first take, Stephen A. went off. Told his co-host why he felt it was inappropriate for Williams to be backing Lamar's diss track. If I'm married and my wife is going to join trolling her ex, go back to his ass, Smith said, because clearly you don't belong with me. What you worried about him for? And you with me. Bye-bye. A little louder. I can't quite get the inflection. Stephen A. has the mouth that only a mother could appreciate. I'm sure she does. His co-host Ryan Clark quickly tried to regain control of the situation. How you gonna do that? Stephen A., he controls everything. Telling him to stop it. If you with Serena Williams, you're gonna be a kept man always, Clark told him. Don't start that, man. Come on. Stop. Okay, stop. Williams briefly dated the Canadian rapper back in 2011, but seemed to revisit their romance back in 2015 after TMZ released pictures of the two sharing a kiss. After both splits, Drake mentioned the 23-time Grand Slam singles winner in at least two of his songs' 23 Grand Slams. First being his 2013 single, Worst Behavior, and in 2022, he picked a fight with Williams' husband, calling him a groupie in his song, Middle of the Ocean. We'll let you decide, let it marinate, think about it. I like crip walk. Okay, I can't do it, but I'm trying to learn. I want my daughter to teach me. This is Indisputable with Dr. Rashad Ritchie. Doc's back in a moment. All right.
But the price of the windows themselves. You can count on renewal by Anderson. Do the job right, on time, on budget. It's what you should expect from an industry leader.
Well, I've been watching your team install your windows, and I have to say they really know their stuff.
That's because our certified master installers are highly trained when it comes to installing your windows.
Impressive.
And they stand behind their product too, right, Don?
Because we sell, manufacture, and install your clean windows, we absolutely stand behind both our product and our installation. Our industry-leading warranty is one of the best in the nation.
Hey, look at that window up there. It was put in great. You did an awesome job. The house looks amazing. Thank you so much for being professional, on time, cleaning up well. You guys are the best.
Buy one window, patio door, or entry door, and get the next one 40% off. Get an extra $200 off your entire purchase with no money down, no monthly payments, and no interest for 12 months. Call before February 28. 1-800-460-7700. That's 1-800-460-7700.
Your shipping manager left to find themselves, leaving you lost. You need to hire.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Sponsored jobs on Indeed are 2.5 times faster to first hire. Visit Indeed.com/hire.
When I go to the salon, I'm not just getting the nails done. I'm also getting the best gossip, like how Tanya broke up with her boyfriend because he got busted, or that my girl Chelsea has still not called CarShield for her out-of-warranty vehicle. CarShield offers plans that pay for repairs on up to 5,000 parts of your car. Because we all know it's not if your car is going to break down, but when. And you gotta call CarShield before your car breaks down. Like Chelsea's nails. You need a whole new set.
Best of all, you'll get access to CarShield's concierge service, where they help you find a certified repair shop near you.
So you don't have to lift a finger or break a nail if you have a breakdown. So if you want the hot gossip, come to the salon. If you want a hot deal, call CarShield for a price lock guarantee and a low monthly rate that stays the same as long as you cover.
Call 800-611-4894.
1-800-611-4894. When bad allergies attack, trust Claritin to keep you in the game. Nothing has proven more powerful for continuous non-drowsy allergy relief. Live Claritin Clear.
Double trouble for more than 20 million people across the Midwest and Northeast today because those areas are expected to get slammed with not one, but 2 winter storms through Thursday. One D.C. store owner is already selling out of snow supplies.
Shovels, the sleds, scrapers, salt.
It's a little bit of everything. I mean, like I mentioned earlier, definitely the sleds. Actually, last time we sold out of those completely pretty quick. Everybody was looking to have just a lot of fun in the snow.
So you sell more sleds than you do salt.
Exactly.
Well, just today, the National Weather Service said it hit a negative 23 degrees in Bismarck, North Dakota. And with wind chill tonight, it'll be even colder. But what does negative 23 even feel like? NBC's Priya Sridhar is live in Lexington, Kentucky, where they're already seeing snow. You're shaking your head because I guess the good news is you're not in Bismarck, but people are still going to have their hands full there, right?
Yeah, I was just thinking that negative 23 degrees, definitely do not know what that feels like. But you're right, we have back-to-back storms that we're contending with here. And at least that first storm that we're talking about, the epicenter of that was supposed to be right here in central Kentucky. And we actually had a winter storm watch that began last night at 7 p.m. and is extended until 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. So we saw a lot of snow. It was really beautiful for a while. I was telling folks that I felt like I was in a snow globe for several hours. We had about 1 inch of snow falling per hour for a few hours, and I would say that the accumulation on the ground around me right now is somewhere between 2 and 3 inches. But the good news for us here in Kentucky is that we were nowhere near those temperatures you were talking about at negative 23. We actually hovered around the 31-degree mark, which meant that if you look at the roads behind me, there wasn't any sort of accumulation on the roads, and that's why you're seeing traffic flowing pretty smoothly, and we didn't have to deal with any of the black ice that officials were really worried about. Now, central Kentucky isn't really familiar with having huge blizzards here, but they actually did have a storm system come through just last month, and they had a lot of lessons learned from that. So this time around, they say that they were more prepared. They had about 40 dump trucks out there with 3,000 tons of salt that were out there pre-treating the roads and putting salt out around 1,200 miles of roads today. So far we haven't really heard about any significant accidents, fortunately, but we know that this weather system is moving on over to the East Coast where you guys are, and we know that DC and Philly are going to get pretty hard hit with up to 6 inches of snow there. Virginia has already declared a state of emergency, and West Virginia could also see a significant accumulation, and that's all before the second snowstorm system that you mentioned will be making its way from the Great Lakes to the Midwest region, and then a third storm is actually going to enter the mix over the weekend in many of the areas that got hit this weekend. The good news, though, as we heard from the people over in DC who were buying sleds, is this weather is actually perfect for throwing a snowball or two. The perfect kind of weather for a good snowball fight or making a snowman. Chris.
Well, I like that you put a good, twist on all of that. Have fun out there, Priya Sridhar. No, thank you. Okay, we're going to go from cold to flu because a new wave of flu infections is now surging nationwide. Doctor visits for the virus are at a 15-year high as this dangerous strain spreads rapidly, especially among kids. NBC's Maggie Vespa is reporting from Chicago. Maggie, what are you hearing from doctors there?
First, we're hearing they expected a surge, like they were kind of waiting for something like this to happen, but even the numbers are really striking them. Again, as you said, doctor visits for the flu at a 15-year high, according to the CDC. Cases week to week are up more than 30%, according to their latest numbers. And this is really sweeping across the country. It's sparing no corner. We have a list, actually, of the states that are really getting hit the hardest. You can see Massachusetts, Michigan, Nebraska, New Hampshire, with lots of the East Coast. We're also including, by the way, New York City. New York State, New York City as well. They're surging there too. And then a headline that we're kind of sporadically seeing popping up across the country. And so keep in mind this is localized and it's sort of hit or miss. So check for local pharmacies. But we're seeing shortages there of typical drugs that a person would use to treat the flu, like Tamiflu. You see it on your screen. Pharmacists say they, frankly, are running out amid this surge. Here's some of what we're hearing from professionals.
The flu numbers are so high that it's really hard to even keep the supply up for people who are being tested.
Not only is it going to reduce your chance of getting sick, but if you do get sick, it's going to reduce the symptoms that you have and decrease the chance of you passing on to a loved one.
And one other kind of real world impact that we're seeing, we saw this last week, Chris, we talked about it, school districts shutting down. I talked to one superintendent in rural Ohio who told me in her 40-year education career, she had never seen absentee rates for students and staff topping 25%, but she saw it last week. She closed schools for days. And here's the thing, experts say they're likely to see these numbers continuing to rise. They don't think that we've kind of topped out yet. The final note that a lot of people are making, vaccination rates, flu shot rates have been plummeting, especially for kids. The latest data that we saw showed a 14% drop for pediatric flu vaccination rates in the last 5 years. Experts say, make no mistake, that is absolutely driving this surge. And Chris, obviously a lot of political context to add there, but just looking at the numbers, doctors say it's definitely a factor.
Maggie Vespa, thank you. And that's going to do it for us this hour. Make sure to join us for Chris Yancey Reports every weekday, 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern, right here on MSNBC. Our coverage continues with Kaylee Tur Reports next.
Between Molly leaving and Mom's osteoporosis, I thought life was going to slow down. Boy, was I wrong.
If you have postmenopausal osteoporosis and are at high risk for fracture, Evenity can help you rapidly build new bone in just 12 months. Evenity is the only bone builder that...
All love. I do find it to be a multifaceted way in order to reclaim one's, narrative. Because yes, she was not only criticized, she lost some reputation by way of some commentators who talked about, oh my goodness, she's doing the crip walk, as if they don't in the privacy of their homes. But she had the audacity to do it on a major stage. And then there's another major stage called the Super Bowl. She did it again, a totally different interpretation and contrast. Why? Well, I think we're starting to get the picture. You see, if Trump did a crip walk today, it would be universally accepted by MAGA. It would be socialized into the context. As a matter of fact, you would probably see mainstream brands all of a sudden embracing the crip walk. Why? Because Trump did it. In other words, stop being defined by those who create atmospheres that are contrary to your progression. They didn't give a damn about Serena in the first place. Those that rock with Serena now rocked with her then anyway. But despite criticism of Williams, Stephen A. did give props to the gamesmanship. Here it is.
Serena Williams is a compliment lady, that's true. So her doing the crip walk and her being on stage with Kendrick Lamar on his face, ain't nothing wrong with that. That's pretty damn cool. But she used to mess with Drake, according to the reports. I mean, if we talk about Kendrick Lamar, is that brother cold or what? That's not a brother to mess with. Cause that dude not only had Serena Williams on stage dancing, she's a tennis star, by the way, the greatest tennis star that ever lived. You understand what I'm saying? She's a tennis star, ain't a dancer. She's a tennis star, all right? But she crip walking on stage. If that wasn't bad enough, cause she used to be with Drake, they said Sessa used to be with him too. So Kendrick Lamar got both exes on the stage, celebrating him going after Drake.
That part. All right, Sherry, here's the thing. I actually found out through some confirmation later that Stephen A. Smith is pretty much acting, okay? Whatever they define that relationship as is up to them. Is, adults being adults. But there was something allegedly there, which means the whole thing was in context of the fashion of brother Kendrick Lamar in a way that, we are now figuring out much later. What say you?
This is not a Stephen A. Jada Pinkett Smith, Tupac, celebrating the ghost type of thing when you're married to another man. Serena Williams is more than Drake's ex.
Room for cream?
MSNBC presents a new original podcast hosted by Jen Psaki. Each week, she and her guests explore how the Democratic Party is facing this political moment and where it's headed next. The Blueprint with Jen Psaki. Listen now. President Trump's first 100 days. Watch,
I'm going to be here 5 days a week again.
read, and listen
Staying up half the night reading executive orders.
for this defining time in the second Trump presidency. Stay with MSNBC.
Be with you. I'm Katie Tur. Take these 4 things together and ask yourself what you get. Ordering prosecutors to drop corruption charges against a big city mayor. Pardoning an infamous governor for a governor who was convicted of corruption. Pausing the enforcement of a law banning foreign bribery, i.e. corruption. And gutting the office that focuses on protecting government whistleblowers that might report corruption. The answer, corruption at worst or at best. An appearance that corruption is somehow okay now. So is it? Joining us now, MSNBC legal correspondent Lisa Rubin, reporter for The City, a nonprofit and independent news site, Katie Honan, NBC News Justice and Intelligence correspondent Ken Delamian, and former senior member of Robert Mueller's special counsel investigation, Andrew Weissman. Andrew's also an MSNBC legal analyst. All right, Ken, I'm going to begin with you because this all has to do with the Justice Department and what they're choosing to do or not do. The biggest headline of today is this decision to push for the dropping of federal charges against New York City's Mayor Eric Adams.
Well, taking the wrong U-turn here.
Yeah, and make no mistake, this is an enormous story. It just looked like a routine government decision over
Report navigation bug on U-turn.
in the city, Trump and his team can say, we actually don't need you anymore.
So what's the expectation? Start acting now that this is potentially about to get dropped.
We'll make sure to preview of it yesterday, hours before this memo dropped. I reported that the mayor gathered his top commissioners, the police commissioner, the head of health and hospitals executive, the school's chancellor, and said, if you don't like Donald Trump, don't say anything about it. Do not criticize the federal government. Do not criticize this administration. We have billions of dollars in federal grants, and I will take care of it. And a lot of people were really disturbed by this movement because there was a lot of confusion over what to do if ICE comes to city buildings. No one knew what to do. There was differing messages being sent to city employees. And of course, this was met with a lot of criticism and really anger yesterday. Just rolling over and telling Trump, do whatever you want in New York City, I don't care. Remember, Trump said today that this is very disturbing, and he said, quote, that he believes the mayor is like the hostage of President Trump. So I think we'll see more of that.
So, I mean, I know my kids go to public school here in the city, and there was a memo that went out to just laying out the policies the school has. I mean, can we ask the question of whether Mayor Adams is going to enforce that at schools or at other sensitive places? I know the Trump team said those places are fine, that we're going to go to those places, but the cities can stand in the way of that. So what's the expectation of what Mayor Adams will be doing?
Schools actually have a slightly more extreme protection from ICE, given that there's children inside. But I think the concern was, what we saw under the previous mayor, under the first Trump term, was a mayor who was really strongly against President Trump and his policies. We don't have that this time. So people were very fearful that if ICE shows up, not just at the school, but, they're afraid of when I'm taking my kid to school, if I'm on the bus or the subway, will ICE bombard me there? There was a concern about attendance numbers in January, post-inauguration, if there was an actual dip. The school's chancellor initially said that one of the factors was fear from immigrant students. The mayor's office was very mad that she said that, and then she walked it back. So I think people are afraid of, seems like a lack of independence.
All right, Andrew, let's go to the bigger picture here. I laid out all of the other things that are going on. You have Mayor Adams, and then the case probably getting dropped, or at least DOJ wanting it to be dropped in exchange, it appears, for immigration enforcement. You have the full pardon now of the governor of Illinois, former governor of Illinois, Blagojevich. You also have the, Don't Enforce Foreign Bribery Act. You had the gutting of FARA, or the non-enforcement of FARA, the leniency on it, which is the Foreign Registration Act. Take all these things together and then tell me what the Justice Department is going to be interested in doing.
So I think that is exactly the right way to look at this, which is you have to look at this together and not individually. And as a friend of mine said, who is a white-collar defense lawyer, this is a great time to be a sort of corporate criminal. Because Pam Bondi, the new Attorney General, announced in her first day in a series of memos the gutting of various laws and protections. They dismantled the National Security Division's corporate task force. I used to oversee the Foreign Corrupt Protection Act that was there to stop bribery. Every single country in the world prohibits bribery. And we have been prosecuting the FCPA violations. Now it is law of the jungle, where every corporation is now free to, according to Pam Bondi, bribe companies and bribe public officials in order to gain business. Who does that? I mean, this is supposed to be a rule of law country. Republican and Democratic administrations have been fighting that. It is now a great time to be a foreign adversary because, as you pointed out, the Foreign Agents Registration Act, the Kleptocracy Initiative, all of that has been disbanded. So if you want to engage in foreign interference with our elections, you're free to do that. It is really sort of a remarkable set of changes, and it's useful to, I think, to think about this not in terms of all of the lawsuits we've seen, which is attacking actions by the Trump administration which are alleged to be illegal. These are actions that are just policy differences, but are sort of horrendous if you believe in the rule of law. And it's really making the American country sort of unsafe, because it's like saying corrupt American actors get to go forward in terms of white collar crime, and political adversaries get to
engage in corruption here, and it looks like Pam Bondi's Attorney General is going to look the other way.
Yeah, there's also the FARA stuff. I mean, we just saw Senator Menendez get put in prison, sentenced to prison for taking money from the government of Egypt. I mean, that was a big deal. It's a Democrat falling afoul of that law. What does it say about what our lawmakers are going to be allowed to do now by not investigating FARA violations, as the DOJ is saying it's, and tell me if I'm getting it wrong, the DOJ is basically saying we're not going to investigate as heavily FARA as we did in the past.
Yeah, what Pam Bondi said in her memo is that if you are a foreigner, whether it's a foreign country or a foreign person, and you are spending millions of dollars to lobby here and to influence American policy, we are not going to investigate that criminally. And so the hammer that sort of helps prevent our foreign adversaries from doing that surreptitiously is gone. So that means that Russia, to take an example, China, other adversaries who spend millions and millions of dollars to lobby congressional leaders, to influence our policies, do not have to disclose that they're doing that. And Pam Bondi herself was a registrant and had to disclose under the FARA statute. What I do find interesting, Katie, is Senator Grassley, a very sort of well-known Republican leader, is a big proponent of the FARA statute. For years, to his credit, had been chastising the Department of Justice, saying there needs to be more criminal enforcement of the FARA statute because he saw the problem, and he said, you're not sufficiently deterring what I am seeing going on. And the department in the last, basically since the Mueller investigation, has done a lot with respect to enforcement of the FARA statute. And Pam Bondi on day one said, no more criminal prosecutions under FARA.
There's that. There's also, Ken, let's talk about whistleblowers. The whistleblower protections are being paused right now or gutted. Give me the actual reporting on that. And then there's the IGs that all got dismissed. It feels like anybody who might want to raise their hand and say, this isn't okay, this is corruption, is not, getting that message is not welcome, it appears, within the Trump administration.
Yeah, I think you're talking about the Office of Special Counsel, which is the entity that looks after whistleblowers inside the federal government, not to be confused with Special Counsel Jack Smith, that kind of special counsel. The Trump administration fired the head of that office, and he's now litigating to try to get his job back. But yeah, you're absolutely right. The finding of the IGs under the one-day story almost we should not forget is the worked for Jet. Sending and what most people did was an illegal firing because they're civil servants. They have a right to due process, and they were not given that. They were escorted out essentially. So that sent the message on day one that we are going to get rid of prosecutors, and later we learned FBI agents who worked on cases that we don't like, regardless of whether we have cause to fire them. That is a chilling message. That is not how the United States has run, particularly since Watergate. And now with the Eric Adams decision, the Justice Department is sending the message that the post-Watergate norms that separate politics from decisions about criminal investigations, those are essentially out the window. And, look, Donald Trump and many people around him promised that was coming, but it's another thing to see it actually happening in the first month of the administration in such a dramatic fashion.
All right, Ken Delanian, Andrew Weissman, Lisa Rubin, Katie Honan, welcome to the program. Thank you guys for starting this off. Again, taken all together, it does send a pretty clear message. Still ahead, they could be the next casualty of Donald Trump's proposed trade war. What farmers say another round of tariffs would do to their ability to operate. And President Trump fires back at Hamas after they announced a delay in the next hostage release. What he is threatening to do if all Israeli hostages are not returned by Saturday. Plus, an American teacher who was held in a Russian prison for more than 3 years is on his way home. What we know about the release of Mark.
Experience advanced technology in Buick Envision. Equipped with the largest in class ultra-wide 30-inch diagonal display and Google built-in compatibility, innovation is at your fingertips. Buick, exceptional by design.
Here's to getting better with age.
Cheers to beating these two every Thursday.
Help fuel today with Boost High Protein. Complete nutrition you need and the flavor you love. So here's to now. Now available Boost Max.
Safe like repair.
Perfecting your swing is hard.
Nice shot, Dad.
But replacing your windshield doesn't have to be. Go to safelight.com and schedule a replacement today.
Woo!
This is the Emirates Premium Economy seat. Economy. Perhaps they need to call it something else.
Hey, you. I'm talking to all you face painting, instrument mastering, lava dodging sensations. You deserve care from people who get not this. You need Sitter City. They've been connecting families with sitters and nannies for over 20 years. These sitters and nannies like what you like. They create kids-centered adventures. And their sensations too. Get started today at Sitter City.
What is your plan for example, farmers? Last term, you gave money to the farmers. Would you do that again?
Yeah, the farmers are going to be helped greatly because they're not going to be dumping everything into our country. This will be a great bill for farmers. And in terms of retaliation, if they retaliate, it's, as I said, it's reciprocal. So if they raise it a little bit, then we raise it automatically. So I don't think it helps for them to retaliate. But also remember this, they can't really retaliate because we're the piggy bank. We're the piggy bank. But if we don't do this, we won't be the piggy bank for long. We won't be much of a country.
President Trump is telling farmers not to worry about tariffs, arguing it's ultimately going to help them. Last time Trump did this, though, tariffs, last administration, that help did not come, and we ended up having to give farmers a $28 billion bailout. But in this second term, it's not only the tariffs that American agriculture is worried about, it's an executive order he signed on day one. Joining us now, National Farmers Union President Rob LaRue. Rob, good to have you. Tell me a little bit about this executive order. What it is about it that is concerning American farmers.
Yeah, well, I'm really glad that you raised the topic because the general topic is a lot of uncertainty in farm country, and that is the fact that we do have the threat of tariffs, that we have right now a federal freeze on government spending on programs that tie up a lot of programs that farmers have joined and have already invested in, and we're hoping for government investment by On top of that, we also have the move to close USAID, and that means more uncertainty for farmers because of the importance of food aid to farmers markets out there. So really, the general theme across the board right now is a great deal of uncertainty, and it comes at a time when farmers economically are really stressed.
$2.1 billion goes to U.S. farmers with USAID as well, so that freeze affected the farmers. When we're talking about the programs or the specifics of what's been impacted, not to mention all the freeze for the money that came out of the Inflation Reduction Act from the Biden team, what sort of things are we talking about? What are farmers not getting?
Well, first of all, there were contracts signed with the federal government for farmers to invest in more sustainable practices. Often it's cost prohibitive to invest in equipment and infrastructure on their farms to make sure that we're prepared for sustainability into the future. As these contracts are now in place and farmers often have made really significant financial commitments, right now we have a freeze and a lot of uncertainty about whether or not the government will uphold their end of the bargain and whether or not farmers will be reimbursed for some of that investment.
So like farmers who installed solar panels on the roofs of their buildings, or farmers who have tried to make way for sturdier crops, what are the things that they invest in that they're waiting to get paid back on?
It's everything from making sure that whether it's seed for native grasses, for more sustainable kind of cover crops, it is renewable energy projects such as solar panels or more energy efficient infrastructure on their farms. It can also though include farmers who are part of a community that is investing in rural water infrastructure and wastewater for their small rural communities. We are hearing stories where those investments are also tied up right now, and unfortunately for a lot of these small and medium-sized farmers, that investment on top of